So I think there's one thing that pretty much every Bears fan is in alignment on. And that is the Bears' number one goal of this offseason was to fix the offensive line. In particular, the interior. That's left guard, center, right guard. Right? Like, always so many different opinions and varying perspectives, but this feels pretty unanimous. So, knowing that that was the opinion of pretty much all Bears fans, it stands to reason that the Chicago Bears would have a similar perspective, especially with the hiring of Ben Johnson and saying, hey, we are going to prioritize the offense. We're going to prioritize Caleb Williams, his development, and even more importantly, his damn protection by addressing aggressively the offensive line this offseason, whether it be free agency, the draft, trade market, combination, what have you. And to be clear, this is not an option for King Pools. Can smash and double fist all the Twinkies and ding dongs he wants, but he has to know this is the number one goal of the program since he's fucked up the offensive line the past 3 years. And don't let anybody get it twisted here. You can make all the excuses you want, but a former offensive lineman being this bad at evaluating the offensive line is inexcusable. In 3 years, you have one starter on that unit that you don't feel you need to worry about replacing at all or really wouldn't even entertain it, and that's Darnell Wright. You're going to have some Bears fans and Bears media members that try to use the Braxton Jones is solid. That's defensible. He's a starting caliber left tackle. And maybe he is, but he is on the lower end of that, like Charles Leno-ish. How much do you really want to pay for that? You're getting into a contract year for him. Really, the Bears need 4 new offensive line starters. Do you see the difference? Everybody looks at Darnell Wright and say, yeah, he's the guy at right tackle. And there are varying perspectives and opinions on Braxton Jones after 3 years. That tells you all you need to know. But nonetheless, for the moment, I think everybody is in alignment again that the interior of this damn offensive line needed to be fixed. And we were wondering what dominoes were going to drop. And Bears fans were thinking about, media was talking about them going after Trey Smith. Well, clearly that's not going to fucking happen since the Kansas City Chiefs franchised him. And the Bears, perhaps are going to sit there and try and go after him. Who knows? And they ultimately did not. But it took, a prized big money free agent off the market. Which makes me wonder, if that then put a little bit of impetus into Ryan Poles and the Bears front office to say, we can't wait for free agency. We got to go make some moves now. And this past week they did by trading with the Los Angeles Rams to bring in former Detroit Lions offensive guard Jonah Jackson into the fold. And then following that up within 48 hours by reaching out to the Kansas City Chiefs in trading a future 4th round pick in 2026 to bring in all-pro guard Joe Thuney. So, lickety-split, the Bears have addressed multiple spots on that offensive line through the trade market. What in the fuck is Ryan Poles doing? Now look, the Joe Thuney trade, let's start there, even though it was the second domino to fall. It's really, really hard to knock him for making this deal. You gave up a 4th round pick next year for an all-pro level player, even though he's 32 and he's at the tail end of his peak. That's fair to question how much longer he'll be playing at that level. But you really don't have a tomorrow when it comes to protecting Caleb Williams. You have brought in Ben Johnson. You have to protect him. You also have to get better in the running game because the running game is a very big part of what Ben Johnson's offense does. So you couldn't go in there and half-ass this. So whether Joe Thuney is going to be starting for this team in 5 years or not really doesn't fucking matter. What matters is he going to start for this team and represent a sizable, significant upgrade at left guard? And the short answer is abso-fucking-lutely. Would you rather have Tevin Jenkins' injury-prone ass Or would you rather have Joe Thuney at left guard? I think the answer is fucking obvious. And when you look at that and you say, okay, he comes with a decent sized cap number, but it's not too onerous, and maybe you figure out something a little longer term, but he's also 32. At the end of the day, it's this. For Thuney, this is a really good deal. This is one of those rare instances where it makes sense for Ryan Poles to trade a mid-round pick for a 30-plus-year-old veteran because it addresses your biggest need and does it with a very, very high-caliber player. I think most everybody could agree with that. Jonah Jackson, on the other hand, is a thing of, I just really don't get it. The last offseason, he signed a big contract with the Rams. He went there, he was injured, and then they were trying to play him at center, which was weird, and shit just didn't work out. So the Rams are willing to deal him to you for a sixth-round pick 1 year after giving him a huge money deal. Did you ask yourself why? Why was he allowed to be traded after 1 year? Why didn't anybody else step up and offer a similar package or maybe a little bit more to get him? Why? It's that all too critical, all too important question of why. And if you're going to say, well, it was a sixth-round pick, it's the equivalent of trading Justin Fields for Jonah Jackson. Well, trading one bum for another bum doesn't make it a great deal. That's all I'm going to fucking say about that. No, it's not. I'm going to keep going. Like, yeah, Jackson was good, but that was back in 2021. And I realized that was as Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator, right? But the reality is this, is if he was so goddamn good, why did the Detroit Lions keep him? Why didn't they pay him what the Rams ultimately paid him to retain him? And I am sure there's a piece of this that there's familiarity there with Ben Johnson. He likes the style that Jonah Jackson has, but this is also a thing of, prioritizing protection of Caleb Williams is more paramount than improving the running game, although improving the running game for Ben Johnson's system is important. Jackson is an above-average run blocker and a below-average pass blocker. It's kind of been his career trajectory here. So why would the Rams want to trade him after 1 year? Why did they get so little compensation in return for him? Why are the Bears in such a hopped-up mood to do this? Like, with the injury trouble he's had the past few years, I would argue, especially over the past couple of seasons, that when healthy, Tevin Jenkins has been better and by quite a bit. Then why wouldn't you just sign Tevin Jenkins to some type of like one-term or 1 year or short-term kind of prove-it deal or, incentive-laden deal? Why wouldn't you do that? Like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. You basically, and we could sit there and talk about whether his cap number for Jackson in 2025 is going to be 17 million or 11 million, whatever the fuck it is. Like, you just gave up a draft pick to bring in a just as injury prone and arguably lesser version of the guy you already have in-house. That shit doesn't make any fucking sense. Why be in such a rush to do this, especially if the Rams let him go for a sixth-round pick? That damn near to me indicates they might have cut his fucking ass. Why not take that chance? And if you say, well, they didn't want to let him go, you know what? Maybe there were other guys in the free agent market that would be just as good, if not better. So it feels a little hypocritical for me to sit there and pound on the table and say Ryan Poles needs to address the offensive line, and then he goes and addresses the offensive line, and I've got fucking complaints about it. Here's the thing, though. You're not seeing me complain about trading for Joe Thuney, are you? Context fucking matters here, people. Trading for an all-pro level guard and giving up a fourth-round pick in next year's draft, I can certainly live with that. It's the type of move that I would explore making and consider making. But trading a sixth-round pick for a guy whose best football is 3-4 years behind him, who has injury problems, yeah, I'm not so excited about that one. That feels like the type of guy you could sign in the free agent market and keep your goddamn draft pick. And now you can sit there and say, well, Ryan Poles' history of drafting guys on day 3 ain't the best outside of Braxton Jones. That's true. But also his history of trading day 3 picks for veteran players hasn't been that great either. And to those that are saying, well, trading him for like a Ryan Bates or somebody is going to be worse, not based off of what Jonah Jackson's making this year. Like if Jackson's hurt, Jackson's mid or worse, it's going to look like a really stupid ass deal. Now, it certainly doesn't feel like it's going to be too prohibitive for them to address center. Hopefully signing a Drew Dahlman won't preclude them from making a big move on the defensive line, which, by the way, whether it's free agency, whether it's the draft, that needs to happen as well. But what you can say is for this is there's a clear commitment by the organization to fix the biggest problem, which is their offensive line, and do it now. And the good thing about this, in Ryan Pohl's defense, is this does open up the possibilities for the draft, which is what it should be. You should not be going into the draft in April for the Bears and saying there are clearly glaring vacant holes that they have to address. That should be a draft where you go swing for the fences and you go best player available and worry less about true positional need. It doesn't always work out that way, but the Bears, in the position that they're in, like with the cap space that they have, you should be using that to address the key holes and then go in there and find your missing pieces. That's what we should be doing. So the Joe Thuney trade, thumbs up for that one. The Jonah Jackson trade, got to prove it to me. And for those that are saying, well, you got to let it play out, you got to trust in Ben Johnson, why? Why? Yes, I'm happy he's the Chicago Bears head coach, but as a head coach, he hasn't proven shit. And the general manager ultimately pulling the strings here and making the move is Ryan Pohl's what in the blues to blue fucks his King Pohl's done in his 3-year reign of error in Chicago to garner any type of benefit of the doubt whatsoever. The answer is nothing, of course. But at least, if nothing else, it is a clear acknowledgement that you can't go in half-assing the offensive line. You've got to get serious about it. And it's clear that they're getting serious about it. That doesn't mean I always agree with the tactics, but I agree with the vision. And I will take that at this point.